Okay, hello everybody. We are live, and welcome to our Google Hangout number 4 with Dr. Brenda Brenner, our guest. And Brenda Brenner is an associate professor of music ed at the IU Jacobs School of Music. She is also the president-elect of ASTA. She works with the String Academy at Indiana University, and as well as teaching at the Summer String Academy and the Teachers Workshop. She also has a project where she has brought the principles of the stringpedagogy.com into the public schools, and we're going to talk about all of that. So anyway, welcome, Brenda.
Thank you.
We also have our team with us. And we're here all to answer your questions. So we're going to get started, and we're going to start out with a few questions for Brenda, and then we'll open it up, and everybody can type in your questions. So Brenda, if you could tell us a little bit about what you are doing with the teaching in the public school in your Fairview project. It's blossomed for the past few years, and can you tell us how it started and how it has developed since then?
Sure. Well, I've been at IU at the Jacobs School since 1993, working pretty much hand in hand with Mimi Zweig in the String Academy. I'm co-director of the String Academy. I followed Stacia. We came back to back in that role at the String Academy. And in 2006, I began as the associate professor of music education, focusing on string ed, so I'm the string ed person, in addition to my role as the co-director of the String Academy. And when I started in the position in ed, I started thinking about how we could implement the basic ideas from the String Academy curriculum into the public schools. And in particular, I was interested in seeing how this would work in an underserved population. So in 2008, I started what we call the Fairview Project, which is a project that it started in 2008 just in the first grade, and I was in particular I was interested in looking at early reading and the effect of early instrumental study within the public school setting, and how that influenced the early reading process, because I'd had a parent of one of my children that I worked with in the String Academy who was a reading specialist in the public schools. And she said that she really wanted me to come into her classroom and do some work with her first graders, because she had felt that working with her children really sped the reading process along. And of course, in advocacy circles, you'll read all the time, music makes it smarter, and all the really interesting things, especially coming out of Northwestern right now with Nina Kraus and Music in the Brain. So a lot of really interesting things in the research world. So I thought, what better than for me to combine those two things, where I'm looking at the String Academy curriculum and how that could be adapted to work with a public school population, and also to look at cognitive, academic, social changes in the underserved population by offering them an opportunity to study instrumental music at a very early stage. So to make a very long story short, we started in 2008 with the first graders. In 2009, we did first and second grade. 2010 and 2011, we added third and fourth grade. So at this school, at Fairview Elementary in Bloomington, it's a Title I school, about 95% free and reduced lunch. All children in the first and second grade get large group violin instruction twice a week instead of general music. So we go in, instead of them taking general music, we teach the general music standards for the state of Indiana through violin class. In addition to those 2 large group classes, we go in and do what we call small groups for 1 recess per week. So we pull the kids from a recess in groups of maybe 5, 6, 7, and work with them in a smaller group setting. These kids in 1st and 2nd grade do not take their instruments home. They only play the violin at school. In 3rd grade, they can choose to take violin. It costs $25 a semester. They get to take a violin home. They get a semi-private group lesson once a week during their recess, and then they have an after-school group that's kind of in the vein of String Academy, where we work with them for half hour, 45 minutes in a group setting after school once a week. So we offer that in 3rd, 4th grade, and then they're well prepared at that point to go into the elementary music strings program in Bloomington, which starts in 5th grade. So at this school, they could start in 1st grade and continue through high school. So it was important to me that they have that continuity, that there wouldn't, they just don't get it for 1 year and then they don't have any other opportunities. But I make sure that the kids get these opportunities over a longer period of time.
Good. So can you tell us what does a typical day look like? What is it? What have you found some of the challenges in applying these teaching principles of stringpedagogy.com and your own teaching experiences and philosophies into the public school? So what does your day look like there, and what are the challenges?
I think, well, first I should explain a little bit about what the structure of the program is. I go in once a week and I serve, it's kind of like a string project structure merged with String Academy lab ideas. So I was very lucky and got a grant the very first year that I began this program, and the grant money I used to pay my IU students to come with me into that school. So I have now 36 IU students who I pay to come in and work alongside me. I go in 1 day a week and teach all of the classes, and so I'm basically the master teacher, and the many of the students serve as my assistants or helpers in that class, and then they are the people who teach these small group classes that occur during recess all week. And then I have some graduate students who are more experienced students who lead the large group classes later in the week. So it gives them an opportunity to try these types of things. We have a really nice community right now. My doctoral student who is in charge of the program this semester, Elizabeth Dinwiddie, is doing a lot of teacher training through online videos. So they all submit videos once or twice a semester. We have small community groups to talk about how to teach. They look at the videos together, basically do talkovers where they talk about what happened in the classroom and what could you do differently next time. So basically a lot of teacher training through this program. This population is quite different than what I would face in the String Academy. So they're really, two very, very different populations. The kids in the String Academy with Mimi are children whose parents bring them to lessons, purchase the instruments, buy the music, practice with them every day, and are quite ambitious and excited for their children to have this opportunity. When I went to Fairview the very first time, most of the parents said to me, "What are you going to do to my kid? What is that? Is that a fiddle?" They had not been around this type of music or even the instrument at all. Most of the parents had not had the opportunity to learn an instrument themselves, so it was something very foreign. When I tried to get research permission consent forms signed the first year, I think I got about 50% because a lot of the parents, sort of treated me like I was going to do something horrible with their kids. It was interesting because within 1 year that really turned around. Second year, I had 100% of the parents sign the consent form, and now we have the situation where a lot of people, despite the fact that this is a failing school for No Child Left Behind, that have moved their children into this school for this particular program so that they would have this opportunity. This school went from being just a very traditional curricular school the first couple of years that I worked there to a Bernstein Artful Learning model. So they've actually changed the curriculum in this school to focus much more on the arts and music in particular. So it's kind of exciting to see how that has really changed the population. Something that I was completely not prepared for was the rate of transience and the attendance problems at this school and with this particular population. So when you have a lot of children who are living in poverty, they move from month to month. They can't make rent, or they, are kicked out of their apartment. So it's a big problem because the kids will come in and out of school. If the parent was working all night and couldn't get up in the morning and get the kid to the bus, the child has no way to get to school. So I have a lot of kids who miss just a huge amount of school, which of course is a big problem with the learning process. So hopefully they're doing some things in the school at this point to try and turn that around. But that was something that I was pretty naive about, I think, at the beginning, and certainly has been a challenge for us because you could have a whole class, 25 kids all ready to go on a particular piece, and then that day you get 3 new kids that have never seen the violin, so you have to start all over again. So it slows things down. I found, in terms of adapting the curriculum that you're teaching, Stacia, in your MOOC, that it's extremely easy for me to do. I find, I'm a big fan of rote learning from the beginning. So all those very beginning tunes, the exercises, the action studies that come directly from Roland, are very, very easy to do with these children at the beginning. And it's a kind of learning that they love. They just really appreciate it, and that sort of give and take. And I do what I call I play, you play, where I'll play something and then they play right back to me. And I'll play something else and they play it right back to me. So they have to listen and respond in a way that no other subject requires of them in the public school. So I think that has been quite successful for a lot of these kids, and I found that children in particular who are not succeeding in the academically in the public school are very successful in our classes because of the kinesthetic learning, because it's a totally different kind of activity than what they would be doing in the regular classroom.
Let me ask you this. We've had a lot of people, because I think we do have a lot of public school teachers that are taking this course, and people have asked about, because they notice that we're so hands-on, and some people have said that they're actually not allowed to touch their students at all. And I'm wondering if that's the case, with what you're doing, and what do you do about it? I mean, do you have any suggestions? Because this is a very hands-on approach. What do they do if they're not allowed to? How does it work in the Fairview program?
In my program, it's not the case at all. I mean, we touch the kids all the time. It's always appropriate touch. I think we're well protected because there are multiple teachers in the class. It's on Mondays, it's me doing the lead teaching. The general music teacher is there alongside me. I probably have 3 helpers there with me, plus a pianist. So that's 6 teachers to 25 kids. I videotape every classroom, so every class, so that I have this for research purposes, but it also protects me from, if some child says, well, she did this to me, it's very easy for me just to play back the videotape if anybody wants to see what actually happened in the classroom. But that said, I mean, my helpers, their whole reason for being in the class is to physically mold these kids. So what we find at the beginning level, it's next to impossible to teach the violin if you're not able to at least touch something onto their shoulder, or move the instrument on their body, because I haven't met a 5 or 6 year old yet that's been able to really manipulate the instrument into the exact correct position all on their own. If I were in a school that had a policy where you were not allowed to touch a student, and of course this is something that's for your protection, is I would make sure that when you were manipulating the instrument, I mean, you have to find a way to set the instrument, with this, to say the Statue of Liberty, and you touch the button, the end button, and you move it, and you put it into a specific spot on the neck. But there's always going to be some kids who don't quite get that. So to be able to move just the instrument, I think to use your bow as a tool for moving things, it's not the same as someone's hands, but that would be my second choice, and that's what I recommend to my teachers who are studying to be in the public school, is to use their bow to gently touch the right shoulder, or to move. Clearly you don't want to get your very best bow out there, but you want something to be able to move the elbow to correct the pizza wrist that is inevitably going to be happening. So those are things that you can correct fairly easily with the bow. Mm-hmm. There's no substitute for touching with your fingers, and in those cases, I always ask if I have a child who's sensitive, and we often do have kids that don't want to be touched, and you can recognize that right away. But if you do have that, then to ask them, may I touch your wrist, please? And if they say no, then you don't. Yeah. You don't do it. But if you ask them, so that you can make a correction, I find that the kids actually want that physical contact. It makes them able to learn and understand the process in a way that is so much deeper than just being in front of the class and talking about it.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, good. I'm gonna let Brittany ask some questions. Brittany was when she was in grad school at IU, was a part of she was in Brenda's class, and she was a part of the Fairview project. So I'm going to turn it over to Brittany now.
Dr. Brenner, I have a question for you about because you've said before how different these kids come from, a different population as a string academy student might be, and they aren't necessarily given the same opportunities to see concerts or anything of that sort. So how might you instill like a passion for playing the violin to one of the students at Fairview, as opposed to the String Academy, where they might see more performing and other things?
Well, I find that the kids it's not hard to get them passionate about what they're doing. And a lot of the kids love it. They love playing together. I've had kids that really could have been spectacular violinists who are so talented. I have one little boy, really by the end of the first year, he had watched me vibrate in the class, just on something, I can't even remember, a seesaw or something, and he could vibrate, and it was a beautiful vibrato, and he just figured it out all on his own. So the kids are quite excited and passionate about it, and I've had 3 kids who've continued in 5th grade into String Academy, where I brought them as full scholarship students, and their parents have been able to figure out how to get them there and to continue in the program. So that I'm very excited about. What the main problem is family situation and the ability of the parent to commit and really get their kid there all the time, which is a big problem. I mean, I had one little girl she loves the violin, and she probably of the three is the most talented, but she had a mom who didn't have transportation every Wednesday, so some days she would come and some days she wouldn't come, and that doesn't work in a string academy structure. It's really important to have that consistency. So to be able to communicate and instill that commitment into the parents is one of the big problems of being able to continue with the instrument, at least at the string academy level. I believe all three of these girls have continued in the middle school orchestra, which is really exciting to me that they would be able to go straight into that. And I think at least one of them was your student, Brittany.
Good. Okay, so let's open it up to questions that people have been asking. So I don't know who's up next, but you guys go ahead.
Okay, I'm up first. How do you expect public school string teaching to change in the next decade?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I find, at least in my experience, that we're trying to, well, and this is just my opinion, we're expected in the string classroom to teach a multitude of different skills that will be tested, which I find unfortunate, because I think that we should be able to teach violin, we should be able to teach music, and because music itself is a core subject. So this idea that we have to also make sure that they're doing writing and math, I think that we're going to be held accountable for a lot more of those kinds of things. At least I have felt that. I think at the beginning stage, when I wrote the curriculum, and if anybody out there wants a copy of my curriculum, I'm happy to send it to you. You just email me directly. But when I wrote the curriculum, initially I cross-referenced it with the music, the math, and the language arts standards for the state of Indiana. So for any given class, I was covering multiple standards from 3 different subject areas in first and second grade. So I still have continued to do that. It's fairly easy at the first and second grade level for us to be able to do those sorts of things. And certainly we teach music holistically, but I think that that's the direction that is going in the public schools, is that it has to be a very broad subject. I think is basically fairly easy to do in music, but we also have to be able to spend time just practicing our instrument and learning the technical skills that are necessary to be able to play well.
Okay, good. Next question.
I have a question here from someone asking if you met any resistance from the classroom teachers or the general music teachers, maybe particularly at Fairview.
Well, it was interesting when I started talking about potentially going into Fairview. The dean at the school, at Jacobs School, was so excited, and he just wanted me to go in the next day and get this program started. And I said to him, it's just not that simple. Like, we have to create a community. We have to create a community that is equal partnership, that I listen to them and see what their needs are, and that they listen to me and see what's important about what it is that I'm trying to do. So I took a full year to meet with the teachers, to write the curriculum in a way that was covering some of the things that they needed covered in their classrooms. And I really did create a very strong partnership. And Kathy Heisey, who was the general music teacher when I started there, was wonderful to work with, and we really did this together. We have a different general music teacher. Kathy left 2 years ago, and he's also wonderful, very, very eager to keep us there and to work as a partner as well. I think that's really important. I think it's too easy, and maybe naively there was a little bit of me thinking, okay, well, we're going to go in there and we're going to really give this community something special, which I think we did. But ultimately, I think that what the IU Jacobs School community has taken away from this project is much deeper than what the children gain or even what the parents gain. And I think, Brittany, you can talk about that experience yourself. It really does change a lot of these serious violinists, for all instrumentalists, teachers that come in with me. It changes their lives. It changes the way they think about teaching. It changes the way they maybe think about doing something different toward the future.
Okay. Next question.
So the next question is from Lisa, who works in an El Sistema program, which serves an underserved population, and she's encountered behavioral issues that have been really difficult. So have you encountered any of that in your program, and do you have any strategies or recommended resources?
Yeah, I was waiting for that one. That was, I kind of conveniently left out the behavioral issues when Stacia asked me, what are some of the problems that I've encountered. That's a huge one. I think two things are really, really important. One is to be really positive. So in any given class, I try to find what is working, what is good about what they're doing. I could have a class of 25 and maybe 10 of them totally are not on track at all. Maybe 10 of them are totally with me, and I have another 15 that, who knows, I might have 5 that are off their carpet squares. My class is hugely structured. The kids know from the moment that they come into the class what it is that we're going to do. I start the class. We do this. I got this from Bob Phillips. We have music going as they walk into the class. I'm having them nap or clap or doing different body motions to the beat of what they hear, so that we're starting the class from the moment they walk in the door. So the pace is extremely fast. I move from one activity to the next without talking. I try to teach almost non-verbally. It's a lot of drill, a lot of I play, you play. They don't have a chance to do any talking themselves or to get out of line. And then I try to find, secondly, what's positive, who's doing the right thing. Wow, Johnny, I love how you're on your carpet square today. Somebody go get Johnny a sticker. Okay, excellent bow hold today. We have a gold bow award that we have taken one bow from each size violin and spray painted it gold. And if you are having a particularly good day on your bow, you get the Gold Bow Award. So we take a picture of you and we put it outside in the hall on our wall of fame of Gold Bow Award winners, so that everyone sees it when they go to the cafeteria, and you're kind of like a big celebrity for getting the Gold Bow Award. So we make a big stink about when kids are doing things right, rather than a big stink about when you're screwing up. So I think that makes a huge difference, not only in this population, but in any population. You want to know, well, what's the standard? What is she looking for? How am I going to get attention? And is it going to be positive attention or negative attention? Often I'll totally ignore horrible behavior. If I can possibly ignore it, I ignore it and go for the positive behavior, because it makes a huge difference in the whole class's feeling, and in my feeling as well. I mean, I have days where I can't ignore it, and those are not such good days, but I found that fast-paced end of approach has been really, really helpful for me.
Okay, good. Are there any other questions? No? Okay.
There is a new question.
Okay.
Do you have the beginners stand or sit? If they stand, at what point do you transition them to sitting? How much sitting is incorporated into the curriculum?
Good question. Huge amount of singing. So the kids, I mean, I don't teach the first or second graders any note reading. We do some rhythmic patterns. We do some basic high-low kinds of things, but basically they come in, they stand for the whole time. We never sit. They don't sit until they go into 5th grade strings. So they stand the whole time. We have carpet squares that we have them stand on, and underneath the carpet square we put a foam mat which has their name on it, because I've got 8 classes that we teach. So it's hard to remember everyone's name. So I put everybody's name underneath their mat so they know where they stand. It's great for me to be able to put stickers on the mat as a sort of visual reminder of when they've made good choices and are doing well. So if I catch a kid doing something right, I'll put a sticker on his or her mat, and that's I think really helpful and fun for them. So we never sit. And what was the first part of the question? Singing curriculum. Yeah, so the whole first part of the class, they come in to the music, they're moving to music, they get to their carpet square, we do the body solfege, the sunflower song, we do intervals, so we start with body intervals, a minor second octave, adding intervals as they develop. So by the time that they end 2nd grade, they've done all of the intervals. So we do it with, what's this interval, minor second, what's this interval? So they sing it back to me. I sing them the question, they sing it back. We sing all of our songs, we break them up, often doing, air bow. We'll have them do just left hand only in singing. So we break it up into different stages so that they can practice all of the various elements.
How often do you give concerts? And are they at the school?
We have one concert at the end of the winter, or at the end of December, so at the end of our semester. And then in early May, we do a concert for the 3rd and 4th graders alone. So it's got an element of solos, and these are the kids who've chosen to continue in violin, so they come. It's a smaller concert, a little more intimate, and then we have a huge blowout concert where we bus all of the kids and their parents over to IU, and we have them play on the big stage over there. So that's been very successful. I feel like it's really important for the IU population to go into the school. That's what's very different about what I'm doing than what Mimi's doing at the String Academy, where they come into the university setting for all of their lessons and group classes. We in the Fairview project go into the school. We go into it during the curricular day, so that everyone has to participate in this project. It's not a choice. It's not only the kids that are doing well academically. It's like everybody does this project, whether they like it or not. And some kids don't like it. So I have to deal with that as well. But I think it's equally important for the kids to get the opportunity to come over on campus. And even though Fairview is basically only 2-3 blocks away from campus, there are a lot of kids and their parents who've never stepped foot in a building on campus. So it's really important for them to have that opportunity to come over there to experience a concert with their children standing on the stage. And I've had so many parents with tears in their eyes at the end of the concert say, I never in my life thought I would see my child play on a stage like that, which is really important for them to see that it's possible and to be able to encourage their children to continue to develop these types of opportunities if they enjoy that.
That's great. Okay, good. Next question, Brittany.
I actually just wanted to interject here. And Brenda, if you can talk about, I know when I was there, the kids collaborated with the ballet program at IU, and what that experience was like for them.
Yeah, so the first few years of the Fairview project, we were providing live music for the pre-college ballet program at IU. So they would do this big concert on the Musical Arts Center stage, which is a stage that's the same size as the Metropolitan Opera stage. So, you know, we're talking the largest stages in the country. And so we provided at least 2 different pieces for those children to collaborate, and it was so amazing to get these kids behind stage, and they've never been someplace like this, and it's awesome. Even if you have been on many stages, it's just an awesome backstage, and they're looking around at what's happening and seeing all these kids in their outfits for their dancing, and to be on that stage and experience that was just amazing. We kind of outgrew that because, and Brittany, you haven't been here for a couple of years, but we did a concert this year on the Hour Hall stage, which is slightly smaller, and we did our own whole concert rather than just 2 pieces on said concert. So it was a lot more successful, I think. We played for like 45 minutes, which was, something that the program's really grown. So we had, some solos, we had different classes play different pieces. They did some singing, there was some movement, lots of different things. So it's kind of outgrown just doing one thing on one concert.
Okay. Next question.
Okay, I think it's my turn. So I want to go back. You were talking about your curriculum development. So the question is, you mentioned the importance of structure and fast pacing. Do you think having a regular structure is as important for older students, like high school age, or more for elementary age students?
Well, I think it's more important for your beginning level students. I think it's extremely important for your beginning level students because it allows you some level of comfort to know that you can always go back. And I said, my next article is going to be what public school teachers can take from Suzuki that will instantly change their program. And one of them is the concept of review, of going back and feeling that there's always a different level. There's always, I know, in public schools to get that next concert repertoire ready and get the kids learning this and that. And it's the same in the private studio, but I think just to take the time to go back and allow them to feel really comfortable and confident and play things that are a little bit maybe underneath their level together as a group, so that it allows them to develop their musicianship and their artistry in a way that they're not always struggling and tense and developing bad physical habits. But I think certainly for your high school students, I think some sense of structure is good. I mean, I did a concert this afternoon, and there were some college kids there, and they were talking about a course that they're taking, and they said, well, the person who's teaching the course is pretty disorganized, and they're not really sure when their paper was due, that he said maybe it was Monday or maybe it was on Friday. They couldn't remember, and I don't think the teacher remembered. And I think that no matter what level you're at, a sense of structure, a sense of what your expectation is, a sense of how you're able to break down problems and solve them in a really organized fashion makes a huge difference about how you think about solving problems and being a musician. And I know for myself, the first time I watched Mimi Zweig teach, it was a total eye-opener for me, because I realized for the first time that violin playing is not rocket science. It's pretty simple. All problems exist between two notes. Shifting is timing. All of these things that are just pretty simple. She was able to break them down, and I think for me, working alongside her for 21 years now, it's my goal to break things down so that you can teach anyone to do any of these things if you break it down enough so that they're able to master it at the basic level, and then you add elements on top of that. And I think you can do the same thing in the classroom, where let's all practice spiccato on our open string. Okay, well, let's get the basic motion. Don't try to play it with the left hand yet. Let's do it with something just on the open string, just concentrating on just the motions. Then we add it to a scale that they already know well. 4 times a note, 3 times each note, 2, 1. Then we learn the left hand passage, and then we put those two things together. And by doing things like that for our high schoolers, it makes a world of difference in whether they're able to do it or not.
Yeah, your basic principles are the same no matter what level you're teaching at, as long as you break it down. And you just use repertoire or whatever for the different age levels.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the wonderful thing about being with Mimi and watching her teach, is it's always amazing. She makes it look so simple.
Yeah.
She puts it down and just takes it apart and fixes it. It's great. So, okay, good. Do we have more questions?
Yes.
Okay.
So this one's about reading. This person asks, when they start to read, what book or method do you use for beginning reading?
Well, in the public schools, I have no experience with that right now, because my kids don't start reading until they're in the 5th grade, and I know that she uses all for strings. There's a new method every day. Now, every time I go to a conference, there's a couple of new ones out there, and I think all of them have something good to offer. I think it's really, really important that you concentrate more on the concept that you're trying to teach rather than the method that you're going to use. And I think it really depends upon where you are, what your budget is like, whether you're able to purchase new methods, or whether you're stuck with whatever the school has. But I think you could use pretty much any method, and I think no method's complete in itself. Certainly in my private teaching, I use a lot of Suzuki repertoire, but I also delve pretty deeply outside of Suzuki, starting in book 4. We supplement with fiddle tunes right from the very beginning. I know that my beginners at Fairview, we do a lot of the Peter Martin. He has little suites 1 through 4. And I've adapted those for use in our program there, and they're really wonderful tunes for open strings in first finger, open strings first and second finger. So Peter Martin, little suites. I know that Liz is doing some things like just basic folk tunes. Pop Goes the Weasel. She's playing some jazz tunes that they can pluck 2 different strings the whole time. So you can use any method. it's just a matter of implementing it, and your method is only as good as you are excellent at teaching. So basically, you have to concentrate, I think, more on becoming a great teacher, and don't worry as much about what actual method.
Right. And also, yeah, you just have to make sure you don't skip any of the steps. That's key.
Yeah.
You know, going through the steps and you.
Well, that's the problem, is that sometimes the methods, they do. You have to know what steps are being skipped, or sometimes the methods will jump from key to key, or they'll all of a sudden you'll have a slur in there, and I know I see that all the time in just the books that I use in my private teaching. It's like, whoa, where did that come from? All of a sudden we have a 4-note slur and we haven't done any slurs.
We haven't done it yet. Yeah. That's right. Well, that's how the Suzuki books are really well structured, I think, in that way, where they just, add each their pivotal moments. What Mimi likes to call them, where they're learning a new technique, and you can prepare for it.
Yeah,
it's good.
I will divulge. I mean, I do. I don't want to come off as saying that I wouldn't use the method, because I would, and certainly Essential Elements is one that's tried and true. That's Essential Elements 2000 is what I use in the technique classes at IU that I teach. I think Sound Innovations has some really good things in it. And I think all of them have some really good things in them. I think now, we're in the 21st century. Those methods that have some element of technology with them are becoming increasingly important. So those methods that are not standardized, that basically aren't using any sort of alternative or world music, and that have no video or technology things that are related to them, are becoming less popular, and for good reason, because the kids have all of these other capabilities, and they should be able to use them now.
Right. Next question.
I have a question asking if you have any helpful strategies for getting the kids' parents on board with the program, or if you have found that just happens naturally, and if you have any parent meetings.
We don't have any parent meetings. I find that the same strategy works for the parents that works for the kids. When I have a kid who, especially if it's a challenging kid, who has a good day, we write notes home saying, your kid had a great day today. So-and-so did so-and-so so well, and we were proud that he or she made great choices today in class. This is a big day for them, and they should, please congratulate them, and we're really proud of them. And that goes a long way, because mostly these parents are getting notes home that say the opposite. Your kid's a stinker, and they're totally misbehaving and wrecking the class, and we need you to do X, Y, or Z. And when you're a parent, it makes a big difference when you hear, wow, my kid made a good choice. I'm really proud. It makes you feel differently about what they're doing. For the most part, I really haven't had a problem getting the parents on board. We have some that poison their kids, that don't want their kids necessarily to play the violin, and that's always a problem, and we just say, okay, well, it's not for everybody, but it's part of the curriculum, and we just have to keep going, whether the parents on board or not on board.
Yeah, I love all the positive reinforcement. We always say you get a lot more with sugar than salt, so
yeah,
that's really good. Okay, next question.
Okay, I love this question. This is from Amanda. She says she's 13 years old. She's been playing violin and wants to teach one day. She's been playing for 3 years with the Suzuki method. And do you have any advice for a very young violinist who wants to teach the violin?
Yes. Actually, that's one of the things at Fairview that has been fantastic is that I have actually one of my students, she's at the University of Wyoming right now, but she came when she was 13 and worked with me at Fairview as a cadet teacher. So any of my students who are interested in teaching, who are working with me in String Academy, in the middle school, in high school, will come over and work with me after school or as part of their school, as their service learning component in high school, and come and work alongside me. So I would encourage Amanda to see if she could do some cadet teaching within her teacher's studio. Maybe she could help a couple of the beginners. I think that the best way to get to be a good teacher is to practice, and it's really important to have a live person to practice with. So, for her to come and observe some lessons of kids that might want a mentor, and then to practice with them once a week. Starting now is not too early.
That's great. Also, I would say to her as well, I think that's great to try and be a cadet teacher, but also to just practice yourself and get your playing to the highest level that you can. That's really important too. Okay, next question. We have another one?
Yeah. How do you end your class each day? I found with all the hubbub involved in kids packing up their instruments, it's sometimes hard to have them leave the room in an organized and positive way. Do you have any suggestions?
Well, I'm very lucky, and the way this class works is I don't use cases, and this was one of those. I stayed awake at night wondering how I was going to teach these kids in 30 or 35 minutes what I needed them to learn. And one of the things that was really important, to me, was that we didn't come in and waste a lot of time getting instruments out of cases and tuned and all of that. So all of the instruments are tuned before the kids come into class. When we're doing the warm-up with the body solfege and the intervals, my helpers bring the instruments to the kids. Now, I have other programs that are fashioned after this where they don't have any helper teachers, and in those classes, the children, after they've done their oral skills, their warm-ups, go back to pick up the instruments from a table where they've been laid out, and they're all laid out by size, so the kid knows what size instrument they're supposed to pick up, and get the instrument and back its square. So the end of the class is very similar. With my first graders, my helpers come, they take the instruments. My second graders, I trust them. They've earned the right to carry their instruments back to the table area. So they're it's like a big day when they get to do it on their own. So we end every class with a bow. The children at the end of the class say, "I love to play the violin," and come up, and then they carry their instrument by rows back to, I'll say first row, take your instruments, and they'll do it themselves. So, but I think getting rid of the cases is something that has made the end of the class a lot easier. Now, it's not easier for me because then I have to put them away, but we actually hang our instruments similar to what you would find in a violin shop, where there are two rods and then you stick the scroll of the instrument there so that they just hang by their pegs, and it's a lot easier to deal with them that way.
Good. We're getting close to the class being, or our hangout being over. We've got 6 minutes, and we can let it run over a little bit. But I know that I promised some of the folks on the Mint that we would teach them the storm, so we need to make sure that we do that. And I think that we wanted to ask, are there any more questions? I did want to ask Brenda about now that she is the president-elect of ASTA, American String Teachers Association, what her goals were during this term and term as the president, and what their strategic plan is for the upcoming years. So if we can talk about that.
Yeah, great. I have to say I'm really super excited to be in the leadership position for this organization. It's been very central to who I am and what I've become as a teacher over the past generations. I think the conferences especially really changed me as a teacher in terms of going and learning from my colleagues and having the opportunity to both present and become a part of this community. I remember going, years ago and feeling kind of uncomfortable. I'm a little bit of an introvert, and you're around all these, seeing like millions of people, and I didn't know anyone when I first started going, and then as the years go by, it's something that I just really look forward to, so that I can see my friends and spend time with them and share ideas. So I'm so happy to be in a leadership position in ASTA. I think we're in a very, very good place right now with Bob Phillips as past president. Basically setting up the strategic plan for the future. Steve Benham is doing a wonderful job of starting the implementation phase of the strategic plan, which is basically a series of it's a framework for how we're facing the future, and it's basically building a community of folks who will work together in both task force for short-term goals and committees for long-term goals to continue in a positive direction for ASTA. So if any of you aren't members, I would encourage you to get online, to write me directly, again, to ask any questions. But I feel like, well, I know Stacia's been there last couple of years anyway, and it's been really fun to be a part of that community, and I think it's a really wonderful community, and something that I want to continue to build. I mean, Stacia asked me earlier what was my goal, and my big goal is just to break down some of the barriers that I think we've put up as educators and as string players. That we have the private studio teachers and the school string teachers, and we have the alternative styles, and that we all are doing the same thing, and that we need to learn from one another and be a part of a larger community that.
Yeah, I'd like to say something about that too. Is that we have some really great schools, public schools up here, and I think it's really important to work with the public school teachers and in concert in teaching these kids. And we have, like, there's a school up here on the North Shore, the Avoca School, and they send out, they have a list, and they give the parents, and they can call all the different, we have so many community music schools around here, and private teachers and whatever. But when we get their kids, I just love it, because those teachers over there are doing a great job. They set those kids up, and then they send them out and try and get them to do private lessons. And so we're able to work together to help these kids become good little musicians. And I think it's very important, and it's really fun too.
Yeah.
So I think Caroline, are there a few more questions that weren't answered yet that we need to address that people are writing in? No?
Yeah, I think Brittany had one, right?
Brittany?
Yes, I have one. Someone is asking, do you have any helpful strategy? Oh, whoops, we already did that one. Let me see lower here.
There's one about homework.
Yes. Do you assign any homework to your kids, and if so, how do you check it?
No, not at the first and second grade level, but third and fourth grade, they do have practice charts, and the practice charts are you know, it's basically you take them at their word that they're doing it, and we all know who's done it and who's not based on what the results are, and so you have to just work with the kids. And one of the big things I talk about with my teachers is that you can't just say to a kid to go home and practice. You have to say what you have to practice, how do you have to practice it. You have to go through how to practice it every step of the way in the lesson, and then you can send them home and say, this is what I'm going to check. And it doesn't matter to me whether they're in group class or whether they're in a private lesson. I treat my group classes the exact same way. I'll say, you know, next Wednesday, I'm going to check from A to B and so piece, and this is what the problem is. This is how you solve the problem. Let's go through the steps of how to practice this. I make sure that they've all written it down in their music, and then I hold them all accountable for it. And when I say, so the biggest thing for all of the teaching that I do is that if you ask someone to do something, then you have to make sure you follow through on it. On hearing it, on giving them feedback on how they're doing, and being truthful about that feedback. Was it good? Was it not good? What was good? What was not good? And then, you know, the child knows how to follow through and hopefully get to that next level.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
There was one more. You answered part of it before when you were talking about tuning, because all of the instruments are tuned before the younger students' classes. But in general, how do you feel about the use of technology, apps, tuning apps, metronome apps, and do you use those in your class?
I don't, because the kids are so small, and I know, you know, I wouldn't even think of having them tune their own instruments, although they do tell me when their instruments are out of tune. They recognize when their instruments are out of tune, so that's really positive, but we just take care of it for the little ones. I think tuning apps are great when they're going through the process of trying to learn how to tune on their own. I think I say go for it. If you're working with the middle school group, definitely. I think, you know, it's a more attractive way to go through that process of trying to figure out, you know, is it too sharp? Is it too flat? What's the issue?
Okay, good. All right, Carolyn, why don't you come down? Caroline and I are going to demonstrate the storm really quick before we go. And in the meantime, while we're doing this demonstration, and if anybody has any more questions for Dr. Brenner, you can type them in. And after our little performance here, we'll share those questions. Okay, so the storm, I was trying to find it in the music books, and I can't. I'll have to continue to look for it. But I believe it's by Mary Cohen, and I have several books with her, The Adventures of Egbert, and there's one, I think it's about a pirate, and then there's another one that's a circus. But anyway, they're fun little books, and the pieces are easy, and they can be done like as if they're in a play. I'm pretty sure I got the storm from one of these books, and it's basically it's a storm. So it starts out with the thunder, and so the piano plays a G minor rumbly chord, and the violin will tremolo on the G, and then flashes of lightning is just little clusters in the upper register of the piano, and the teacher will lead and the students will follow with little tremolo spurts of lightning on the open E string. And then we do raindrops where we drop the bow on the string, and the piano will play just little A minor raindrop sounds, and you'll hear that. And then we end with the sun coming out in the rainbow, and it's a big A major rolling chord. And I am not a pianist, so I'm sorry. I'll do my best, but I'll play a little bit, and Caroline will demonstrate on the violin. So, the storm. And you can make those all sections all longer and whatever. But anyway, that's the gist of the storm. And it's really fun. The kids love it. They get to do some techniques that they haven't ever done before, and it's a little bit more of a contemporary sounding piece. So there you go. Okay, good. Are there any more questions that have come in for Brenda or any of us? No? Okay. So we are going to conclude this Hangout with Dr. Brenda Brenner, and thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you with all the ASTA and everything that's going on, and hearing more about your Fairview project. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Stacia.
Take care. And so everybody out there, I know that we need to do another Hangout with just us so that we can answer your questions about our curriculum and repertoire and questions, your questions about teaching your students. And we'll bring in, we'll see if I can bring in Milan again, our little homeschooled student who can come, and we'll probably do it the week out, not this coming week, but the following week, and it'll be during the day, and we'll put up an announcement as soon as we know. We will have several more Hangouts after that as well. So anyway, thanks everybody, and have a wonderful day, night, or whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. So we'll see you in class. Thank you.